Hello and welcome to another edition of Dingers and Stingers. That's Matt. I'm Drew. There's no Dallas this week, so I don't have a snappy intro catchphrase or anything. But we are going to hold down the fort here. Matt and I, we're going to talk football today. This is our
Well,
football episode. Um, and what a time to be discussing football. We just had Wild Card Weekend. We'll talk about some of
mhm.
those games, and then we'll preview the divisional round. But first, we had some news today. The New York Giants have seemingly picked their next head coach, and in their mind, a long-term solution at head coach. They got John Harbaugh, fresh off his firing by the Ravens. Matt, what do you think about this?
I think this is a home run hire. I mean, this is the guy who was instantly the top pick of pretty much every, team that needed a coach. He had like multiple interview requests within the first like hour of him being announced as fired. This is a guy. Now here's a guy. This is a guy who like is going to bring a lot of stability to this organization that hasn't had it. And we'll see how kind of that working relationship is with Joe Shane and the ownership. But I have to imagine the interviews must have gone well enough, that they felt comfortable hiring him and that their, vision of the future is aligned. Um, but dude, I mean, Harbaugh's win. Like they breed winning cultures, and say what you want about his tenure as a Raven. They were consistently one of the best teams in football. They were consistently a playoff team. They were consistent, and I think that's the word that the Giants really probably clung on to is consistency. Because they've been anything but that since honestly Tom Coughlin left. So I think this is a home run hire for them.
Yeah, it felt like, it kind of it's always the case with teams that fire their head coaches. Like there was a lot of openings there where it's like, these are kind of doors that are revolving basically these jobs, these head coaching jobs, whether it's the Browns or the Dolphins or the Giants. Felt like a lot of teams could use stability. It always feels that way, but
Hmm.
there's not usually the stability answer in the market unless you're taking a chance on a new guy and he ends up being that. Um,
Yep.
but that's always a risk, and it's something these teams have not been able to identify correctly, clearly. And so now you're taking in a known entity and John Harbaugh, and yeah, I expect it to be a good fit. I don't think he's like the best coach ever, but I do think that he clearly has built a culture of winning, and I think he can get his guys to buy in, and I think that's just kind of the direction a team like the Giants need to go. And they've got some young talent there. If they believe in Jackson Dart, then they already have their quarterback. They've got Malik Neighbors.
They
There's
got great,
good things
draft
to
capital too.
yeah. So it's a good spot, big market. Um, I think it's a good fit too. So
One
there's
one
going to
thing
be
I'll
plenty of
say.
other. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say one thing I'll say, and it'll be my last thing, but history kind of speaks against this, though. I will say, I read a stat earlier that there's never been a coach who's been the head coach for two Super Bowl teams, um, on like separate teams. Um, so obviously he won a Super Bowl with the Ravens back in the day. So if they have Super Bowl aspirations in New York, it would take him being the first ever to do it. We've had coaches get to the Super Bowl before with two separate teams, but never win two Super Bowls. And so I think it's interesting. But at the end of the day, you said it, and it's just they need stability at the end of the day. And whether or not Harbaugh is the long term answer, that's to be seen. But the stability factor, I think, plays into it a lot.
For sure. Yeah, there'll be plenty of other coaching news over the next few weeks, plenty of
Mhm.
jobs to be had, plenty of candidates out there, and we'll talk about that more in the next few weeks when there's fewer and fewer games to talk about. But for now, we are in the busiest time of playoffs. We had six matchups over the weekend, so six teams. get to move on. 6 other teams sent home packing for the long off season. But the first game of the weekend featured your Rams
Hmm.
against the Carolina Panthers in Carolina. We previewed it last week, and it basically went how you kind of predicted it could go. You obviously didn't pick a winner. Dallas and I both picked the Rams. We were correct. The Rams won in the end, 34-31, but it did take a little more effort than probably a Rams fan would have hoped. What were you feeling about this one?
Yeah, this was exactly what my biggest fear was. We came in as what, like 11 point, overdogs or whatever you call it. They predicted that we were going to kind of kill the Panthers. And if you just look at the record, if you look at the point differentials, you look at the stats, you look at all the things, right? Like every analytics, every stat tells you it would have been a blowout. But if you just like watch football, especially towards the end of the year here, you knew this was going to actually be a good game. I don't know if people expected it was going to be a 34-31, multiple lead changes in the fourth quarter type of game, but we knew that this was going to be a closer game than I think all the stats and analysts predicted. And it absolutely was. I was terrified. Any Rams fan who says he wasn't, or they weren't, is lying. Um, it was terrifying when they took that lead under 2 minutes. I mean, yeah, we have Matthew Stafford, who's like the fourth quarter 2 minute drive god. It's still, you still have to do the thing, right? Like, just because you have a guy who's good at it, you still got to do the thing. Um, it was terrifying, but in the end, we pulled it out. And in classic Rams fashion too, we during the game, Rams fans were furious with the play calling and the decision making, and there was a section of Rams Twitter who was like calling for McVay to be like step down as a play caller and essentially just be this like, he works on the game plan, but maybe someone else needs to handle the play calling. You look up at the end of the day, we were the number one ranked offense through wildcard weekend in almost every category. We scored the most points out of anybody. And so there's multiple things like that where you're like, okay, maybe let's remember it's playoff football. Like it's meant to be competitive. These aren't meant to be the regular season games where you can just kind of walk all over a team. And I think we saw that with pretty much every game outside of the Texans' fourth quarter against the Steelers. But through 3 quarters, I mean, that was a 1 point game. So, we'll get to that, but it was a great weekend, honestly. And, go Rams. We'll see how this next weekend goes, but we live to fight another day.
Yeah, I failed to preview that. It was, especially through like the first 5 games of the weekend, it was like, oh my gosh, like is this going to be the best weekend slate of playoff games we've ever seen? Yeah, a lot of good ones there. But yeah, so
Hmm.
the Panthers are done. We like to memorialize our teams. We're not going to talk about a cause of death because look, they made it to the playoffs. Not everyone can win a Super Bowl. We don't need to dissect that. But what do the Panthers and their fans have to look forward to coming next year?
That they have a young core of studs, and you look at Ted McMillan, you look at Jalen Coker, you look at J.C. Horn, you look at I feel like his name is Michael Jackson. Don't hold me to that. It might be Mike Jackson, but they're two corners, and they just have Derek Brown. They have this core of like really great young talent, and you have a guy in Bryce Young who he's kind of been the epitome of like a pendulum swing at quarterback. He looks really great. He looks really bad. Then he looks okay, and then he looks less than okay, and then for like a couple seconds he looks like a Hall of Fame quarterback. And it's this weird like swinging pendulum with him. And if they can really dial it in with him and create this consistency, maintain the offensive coordinator, maintain their weapons, etc., they have a chance to be really, really good. And in a division too that is clearly up for grabs. No one seems to be the commanding favorite in that division, and no one seems to be, leaps and bounds above the others. They are the team that represented this year. They played against the best teams this year well. If they can learn to kind of handle business within the division, which they didn't this year, then we're looking at a much different team with a much different record. So, you know, props to the Panthers, man. They played their hearts out, and they I think changed a lot of people's minds on them.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was reminiscent of them beating the Rams in the regular season.
Hmm.
It was just, the Rams were able to clutch up and get it done in this one. So Rams move on. We'll talk about that matchup in the next segment, but uh, we'll talk about who they're going to face right now. So the second game, the Saturday night game, the Bears took on the Packers. That was at home in Chicago Soldier Field. And through at halftime, it was 21-3 Packers. It looked like classic. The Bears just have their boogeyman, and it's the Packers, and they'll never beat them in a big game. But then the Bears 2025-2026 factor came in, and down 15 in the fourth quarter, they come back and they win that game. Caleb Williams, certainly a statement win in his young career. What did you think about this one?
Yeah, I mean, this was one of the most exciting second halves, or just like singular halves of football this weekend. Um, because that first half, it's like you're saying. I mean, this just looked like it was going to be a cakewalk. This was going to be a blowout. The Bears just were going to be outclassed by the team that's been there, done that. Um, and mentally, I'll admit, I was watching that game, preparing myself like, man, okay, Packers win. We're heading to Seattle, right? Like I was so prepared for that. And then all of a sudden, Ben Johnson starts to put together that little bit of magic, and Caleb Williams starts putting it together. And as the Bears did more than anybody else this year, they kind of figured it out and dialed it up in that fourth quarter and were able to come through with a win. I saw a thing talking about Caleb Williams and the Bears offense, like their EPA per quarter, and they averaged like 6 EPA in the first quarter. They averaged negative in the second and third, and this is for the whole season. And then in the fourth quarter, they averaged like 9 EPA, which was the second highest in football, behind only the Rams. The Rams and Bears played like the same style of football, which is hot start, terrible middle, finish strong. And so it's going to be interesting to see how this game kind of figures itself out. But we'll talk later, as you said. But Bears, man, they are adrenaline junkies, dude. Like they don't want an easy win. Caleb Williams wants to be in those big moments, and he's making it known, like, hey, he's got that ability to play in those moments for sure.
Definitely, yeah. He's making a name for himself as number one picks try to do, and not all of them get that chance. So good on
Yeah.
him. Packers season's over for them. What's something they can look forward to though?
They can look forward to Micah Parsons coming back. If you look at the Packers record, I believe it was 8-2 with Micah Parsons on the field. Then Micah Parsons gets hurt, and they finished the season 9-7-1, or maybe it was 8-5-1. It was something like that. Either way, Micah Parsons went out, and it clearly affected their team. It clearly affected their defense. They had a couple, minor injuries on the offensive side, and all of a sudden, it turned into a losing football team. They're getting Micah Parsons back. Like he's already talked about it. He's on schedule with his recovery. He's expecting to be back for training camp and to be able to in his words, not have any restraints to start the season. If he stays healthy, he is a premier pass rusher and one of the best in football, and it makes them a good team. He covers up a lot of the holes they have on defense. So yeah, they look forward to having him back next year for sure.
Yeah. Yep. Still a good team, despite the loss. Bad last little bit of the season. That's how it goes sometimes.
Yeah.
All right, the first game on Sunday, morning game for us out on the West Coast. The Bills went into Jacksonville, and Josh Allen went Josh Allen mode, and Trevor Lawrence went a little bit classic Trevor Lawrence mode, which is actually derogatory. That's not necessarily a good thing. Um, and the Bills hold on. They beat the Jaguars 27-24. The third game of the weekend, the third game that was coming down to the wire with 2 minutes to go, and each team had their chance to put it away, and the Bills got it done this time. So, how'd you feel about this matchup?
Yeah, I mean, this was the number one run offense versus the number one run defense. This was, my premier matchup of the week. And in all honesty, it kind of was. This felt like two of the teams that had the most momentum coming in. Um, Josh Allen is obviously Superman. There's a reason we call him Superman. It's because he plays like it. And especially in these big moments and big games, there's just something about the way he takes over of like, it's not even always just with his arm. It's the way he's able to elude a pass rush. It's the way that he's able to get those clutch first down runs. It's backbreaker after backbreaker when it comes to Josh Allen playing against you in the playoffs. And that's what happened here. I mean, the Jaguars absolutely played them. Like they gave them everything that they could handle. And it ended up coming down to, could Trevor Lawrence be the hero? Could he be the one that gets the game-winning drive? They had the ball last. And, the Bills defense comes up with a wow, with a clutch play. Um, and they're able to tip the ball at the line of scrimmage, get the pick, and end the Jaguar season. But like I was shocked that the Jaguars, they really did push them, and that run defense showed up. Like James Cook did not have this like spectacular game, and Josh Allen, he had his moments, but he also wasn't running around for like 80 yards. Like he was just picking up those short, necessary first downs. But I mean, you saw it. Josh Allen was pretty beat up by the end of that game, and there was multiple times he was coming to the sideline, and he was just like exhausted. He had been taken out of it. Like Jacksonville gave them everything they had, and props to Jacksonville. I think maybe next to the Panthers, Jacksonville is the team I was most of the losing teams was the team I was most impressed by, for sure.
Yeah, and I'll say as an AFC fan, the Jaguars were low key the scariest team to me in the AFC
Hmm.
side of the playoffs. Now, part of that is that they came to Denver and beat us pretty handily, just like about a month ago. But part of that was, just how hot they had been coming off, and that no one was like, seeming like a more complete team, I think, than them. And I said last week that if the Bills were going to win, it was because Josh Allen goes Superman mode, and I think that's basically what we saw.
Hmm.
I do think Trevor Lawrence, if he played a cleaner game, then the Jaguars could win that game. I mean, it was one score regardless, but um, yeah, so Jaguars season's over. Seemed like a really promising season, just kind of comes to an abrupt halt again. That's just sometimes how it goes. What do they have to look forward to for next year?
That they have a rookie head coach, man. Like they are building something. This is the first season, I think, for most fans where we would say we saw that generational prospect type of talent from Trevor Lawrence. We saw it come out. He was making game changing plays in a positive manner. And it just seemed like Liam Cohen knows how to get the best out of him. And they're going to get Travis Hunter back, and their defense is still good. It's still young, and there's all these pieces that are there and are ready. And with a young coach, they only have the future to look forward to, right? Like they Liam Cohen is going to be there, and I believe he is one of the better play callers in football. And so for them, they're going to have this identity for years to come in a division that once again, Houston obviously they made their big run down at the end. They won like 10 straight games to make it into playoffs, but they started like 0-4 or 0-3, almost statistically, eliminating themselves that early into the season. Whereas the Jaguars kind of they started hot, they finished hot, and they just came up short against the Bills. But they were, in my opinion, one of the most complete teams, if not the most complete team, start to finish of season this year. So they have a lot to look forward to.
For sure. Yeah. All right, moving on to the next matchup, the Sunday afternoon game between the 49ers and Eagles in Philadelphia. I know it's two of your absolute favorite teams in this one, probably tough to choose, but in the end, the Eagles' offense goes completely cold. The 49ers do enough offensively despite George Kittle going down, and they were able to win this game 23-19, which, shout out Monsters Inc. But um, how did you feel about this game?
Yeah, this one was tough as a Rams fan because this also had a lot of say in what was going to happen for us. This is kind of the last game to determine, where we were going to go. It's hard because I don't like the Eagles, but I absolutely could not root for the Niners. And one of the guys in our group chat said it best. He was like, "I was just glad to see one of the teams lose." Like that's honestly what it felt like. Like I wasn't going to be happy for either team necessarily. I was going to be happy that one of them lost. And yeah, it was a pretty ugly game, all things considered. Like the score is whatever, 23-19. Like it's, I'm not someone who needs offense to have a good game. But it wasn't even that the defenses were dominating, it's that the offenses were bad. And I think that's where I felt like it was such like a icky game where the Eagles, I mean, they fired their offensive coordinator, probably in part because of stuff like this, but the Eagles ran 48 hitch routes, 5 yard turnaround. Like that's the creativity that they had, and they can't get the run game going. Saquon Barkley, I highlighted Saquon and CMC as the X factors for that game. They can't get Saquon Barkley into a rhythm in a game against the third and fourth string linebackers of the 49ers and against these backup defensive linemen. Their offensive line isn't really getting much movement in the run game, and Jalen Hurts can't complete a pass. AJ Brown is dropping passes. Like it's the whole operation, man. It's I don't know. This is probably my least favorite game of the entire weekend somehow. Um, and we're gonna get to some other ugly ones, but somehow this one just felt the grossest to me. But, at the end of the day, the 49ers win and they have to go play Seattle. And it wasn't but a few years ago that San Francisco upset a dominant number one seed just to lose to the Rams. And then the Rams went on to win a Super Bowl that year. So who's to say? I mean, Dallas is gone, so we can say anything we want about Seattle. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah, it was an ugly game. I mean, the Eagles vibe is just so bad right
mhm.
now and for like a big part of the season. And the 49ers are trying their best to keep their vibes up, but they keep getting hit by the injury bug, seemingly worse and worse. And George Kittle going down and being out for the remainder of this year at least, and we'll see, it could affect next year as well. Um, but anyway, they live to play another game. The Eagles do not. What do the Eagles have to look forward to?
I the Eagles have what they have to look forward to is they still have the makings of a dominant defense. They have the players in place, the dominant interior D line, good linebackers, young, talented DBs. Vic Fangio is still, in my opinion, one of the better defensive minds of the last, decade or two. They have the makings of a great defense. Their offense needs to figure out what this identity is going to be, but they have a defense in place that can still keep them competitive while they find that. Um, Obviously, I think people look at the Eagles and say this is clearly a team built to be a running team because they have, one of the premier running quarterbacks of the league, and then Saquon Barkley and supposedly a great offensive line. But we'll see. I mean, it wasn't but a few years ago Kellen Moore was their offensive coordinator, and we did see Jalen Hurts performing at a high level, both through the air and the ground. So I'll be curious to see who they end up bringing in as their offensive coordinator. I think that's going to determine a lot. But as far as what they have looked forward to, it's got to be that defense. I mean, how can you not be excited about that defense if you're an Eagles fan?
Yeah, I mean the offense was kind of the story of the second half of their season and how bad it could be at times, and they still won double-digit games. They still made the playoffs, so that speaks very very highly of their defense. All right, so that was kind of the last of the really good close matchups. This next one felt a little closer than the score indicates, but the Patriots played the Chargers at home in Foxborough and ended up defeating the Chargers 16-3. Justin Herbert really just couldn't get anything going the whole night. They had an interception early in the game that started their drive in the red zone, and they came up with 0 points from that. Just one of those nights for the Chargers. But how did you feel about this one?
Yeah, I mean I'm on record. I did think that the Chargers would beat the Patriots here. And to be honest, I think that they should have. I think that the Chargers left more plays on the field than the Patriots did. And at the end of the day, though, I mean the Patriots won the game. Like I'm not taking that away from them. Uh, it just wasn't a good game all around. Drake May, looked very pedestrian against this Chargers defense. And I am the biggest Justin Herbert truther I know. I am a huge I do believe, and I'll go on record. You can roast me in the chat. I don't care. I believe that Justin Herbert is probably the second best quarterback in the league right now. And I would say that biasly behind Matthew Stafford as of this season. Like Stafford's been amazing this season, but I would take Herbert over Josh Allen. I would take Herbert over Lamar Jackson. I would take Herbert over Patrick Mahomes. And I'm being 100% serious right now. On the physical tools alone, not the team success, not all these things. If I'm building a franchise starting at block number one, to be honest, he's kind of the guy I like. I like his game. Clearly, I know that the Josh Allen comment has sent shivers up your spine, but we can discuss that later. Justin Herbert looked bad in this game. I'll say it. He looked bad, and I know he has a terrible offensive line, maybe the worst, almost certainly the worst, honestly. Uh, but he looked terrible. He missed throws all game. There was multiple open receivers that he simply just overthrew. It looked like the Patriots really had him um, confused, overwhelmed. If we're going to make fun of Sam Darnold a little bit, seeing ghosts out there. Like this looked like a shell of who Justin Herbert usually is. Because this entire season, Justin Herbert has had that bad offensive line. This entire season, Justin Herbert has had, you know, their starting running back is their third string running back. People forget that. Like Kamani Vidal is the third string guy. He was a practice squad guy to start the year. That's the guy who had the majority of their touches out of the backfield this year. And so you look at stuff like that and you're like, Justin Herbert had all that and was still able to put them in this spot to be a very competitive team. And he was still like a very capable passer. But something about that Patriots team just really shut him down and made him he just missed the mark at the end of the day. Like I do believe there were multiple touchdown plays left on the field because he either didn't see them or overthrew them or just flat out missed. So I'm a big Justin Herbert guy, but I'm willing to admit he kind of sold on this one.
Yeah, the reason I can't go with you on Justin Herbert being the second, like the number two quarterback I would want on my team is because of his playoff resume.
Yeah.
I mean, I like talent wise, I would take Josh Allen over him. I would take Lamar over him. I would take Mahomes over him. But like Justin Herbert is good. I'm not out here saying he's a bad player. And he deserves credit for the season that the Chargers had despite the injuries, particularly to the offensive line. Um, but I mean, this is a guy who's been around long enough now that he doesn't get the grace of like a young, fresh quarterback when it comes to playoff football. And I know he's 0-3 in his career in the playoffs, and three not very good games. I think
I
someone
don't I don't think he's thrown a touchdown if I'm being honest.
I know he has like the second lowest quarterback rating of any playoff quarterback in like the modern era who's had it more than one start or something like that. But like, yeah, it was just another year where he didn't show up, and not that he could have done enough on his own to necessarily win this game, but only scoring 3 points when the Patriots are good, but like it's not like the greatest defense we've ever seen.
Hmm.
So I I didn't love that, but still, they made the playoffs. They've got Justin Herbert, who is a very talented quarterback. They should be getting some offensive line help just by guys getting healthy next year. Uh, do they have, that I just kind of listed a couple things, but what do you think they have to look forward to?
I think it's absolutely that. I mean, the makings of a super offense are there. At full strength, that wide receiver core is actually pretty good, especially with the emergence of Quentin Johnson this year. Like that is actually a pretty solid receiving core. Marion Hampton and Najee Harris, if healthy, look like two guys who would really succeed in this, scheme. And obviously they fired Greg Roman, which I think was valid, um, especially after some of the remarks that were made by the Patriots after the game about Chargers players openly admitting that they felt unprepared for the game. But they get Joe Alt back, they get Rashawn Slater back. You look at a team like the Lions, right? They have Taylor Decker and Penei Sewell, and when either of those guys are out, especially both, the team looks vastly different in how they're able to perform. And it causes them to kind of crash down to this like pedestrian level. And I feel like that's what the Chargers have like they had this year. At the end of the day, their defense was actually really good. Um, this season, Jesse Minter had those guys dialed in, and their offense was good when it was healthy. When Joe Alt was in, I don't think they lost a game. And so there's a reason Justin Herbert is the poster child of like the what if kind of quarterback, because every year he's in the playoffs, it's like, oh, well, what if they were healthy? What if this? And at the end of the day, yes, you have to perform regardless of the scenario. But I mean, the Chargers, as always, feel like they're right there. Like they were my pick early in the season because of the talent on this team to be the number one seed in the AFC. And despite all these injuries, they weren't that far off. Like they were a pretty good team. Obviously, the Broncos had an amazing, stellar year, which I didn't necessarily see coming. But yeah, the Chargers are good. They're good, and Harbaugh's got them on a good path. They got to stay healthy, and Justin's got to stop shit in the bed. Like at the end of the day, like he is turning into one of those like regular season MVP no clutch guys.
Yeah.
There's only so much to be said about that.
Well, and I think, if he's going to get all the credit, and I think rightfully so, for the regular season that they've had, he also deserves the criticism for the playoffs that they've had,
Yep.
Um, one last matchup from the weekend. It was actually a Monday night game um, that was pretty surprisingly close through three quarters. But then, the Texans pulled away against the Steelers and never looked back. And the final score ended up being 30-6, punctuated by a pick six at the towards the very end of the game. Aaron Rodgers' last throw of the season. Could it be the last throw of his career? I'm sure we'll talk about that plenty this offseason. Um, but how do we feel about this game, Matt?
Fantastic. I mean, terrible through three quarters because it was 7-6, but fantastic about the result. Fantastic about the outcome. Texans defense is one of the gnarliest defenses we've seen. I mean, this is the most Legion of Boom defense we've seen since the Legion of Boom. I think that they just don't have the name brand behind them yet, but legit, this may be the Legion of Boom, like 2.0. They literally run base 4-3 defense on like every single play. Like 90% of their defensive play call is the exact same play, and they're going to play a cover two zone, or cover two shell with the man underneath, and they are just going to rush their four guys. Nobody on that team misses tackles. Every single person is running 100 miles per hour. It is one of the gnarliest defenses, and it showed. I mean, Aaron Rodgers could not operate. Like, and age aside, like I don't know that many quarterbacks would in that scenario. I mean, you're talking about playoffs, the cold weather, defenses usually have the advantage there. In that Houston defense, they right now are probably the team I'd say teams want to play the least um, in the AFC. Like that, I know the Broncos got a defense themselves, but holy shit, that Texas defense feels different. Like it's just a different level of domination. So I loved it. I love seeing Aaron Rodgers suffer a little, um, and I'm glad. I mean, his last play was a pick six, which couldn't be worse, which means it couldn't be better.
Yeah. I had mixed feelings about this game because I do not like the Steelers. I do not like Aaron Rodgers, but at the same time, you're absolutely right. I'm much more afraid of the
Hmm.
Texans in the AFC playoffs than I would be the Steelers. So I kind of, selfishly wanted the Steelers to pull this one out, and just make the path that much easier potentially for my favorite team. But um, yeah, regardless, Texans are moving on. They won't play the Broncos this weekend. They'll play the Patriots, but Steelers, they're kind of an interesting one because they barely snuck into the playoffs. Aaron Rodgers might be done. Mike Tomlin has stepped down after quite a long career in Pittsburgh. It was like mostly successful, but kind of mixed, I guess you would call it.
Yeah.
And so they're going to look different next year. What's something to look forward to for them?
I mean, from the current listing of coaches they've want to interview or they want to interview, the thing that's going to feel different and something to look forward to is they might just be the Rams 2.0. They might be the AFC Rams next year. I don't know if you've seen who they've asked to interview. They've asked to interview our defensive coordinator, Chris Shula. They have asked to interview our basically like Sean McVay's little protege boy. His name's like Nate Shieldhouse or something. But he's like one of those like young, exciting prospect type of coaches. He's like 35 and is apparently some whiz on offense. And then they've also asked to interview Raheem Morris. And so, you look at these guys and you're like, could we see some combination of those three as head coach, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator? And that's literally just the Rams. And so, I think they do have stuff to look forward to. They still have TJ Watt. Um, Their run game was remarkably efficient for not having overly. I'm gonna say this, and it's gonna sound bad, and I'm not I'm not here to say that they're not good, but like I think that their running backs performed at above expected level for their talent, um, and I think that would be consensus league wide. I don't think anyone was calling for like Kenneth Gainwell to be one of the better backs in football this year. Um, And he was. And so, it's one of those things. Like, I think they overperformed at a few places, which is typically, in my opinion, a good sign. You'd much rather see your people overperforming because that just means that expectations haven't caught up yet. Um, but also, the Steelers are pretty old. Like, aside from a few people on that team, a few players, they're pretty old at like most of their core positions. So, as far as looking forward, I mean, you get something fresh, right? Steelers fans have been kind of over this Tomlin experience for the past few years. You're going to get something fresh in the offseason. Whether that's good or bad is to be seen, but at least you guys kind of get your desire and you get to see something else. He's been the coach there for, I believe, 18 years or something, 19 years,
Mhm.
more than half of our lives. And so it's big dealings, it's a big deal. So we'll see. We'll see, man. Whoever this next coach is going to be interesting though, because they've got this, pattern. They've had three coaches over the last like 60 years. Are we going to see another guy who, like Tomlin? Tomlin was only a first year defensive coordinator when he got hired. And so it's like someone like Shula. Are we going to see Shula get hired there and be there for the next 2 decades? Who knows, man? But it's kind of as even as a non-Steelers fan, it is kind of exciting to think like they are a team that just commits to a dude, and in an era that doesn't do that, it's kind of fun to watch.
Yeah, it's always kind of mind-boggling. You see the stats. 1969 was the year they hired Chuck Noll.
Hmm.
He coached till 91. It was Bill Cowher from 92 to 2006, and then from 2007 until now, it's been Mike Tomlin. Pretty remarkable. Three coaches in that's what 55, 56 years, something like that.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, that's I don't think we'll see teams do that ever again, maybe. And but it is interesting to. I'm curious if they because all three of those guys, obviously three very different eras of football. All three were young, defensive-minded head coaches that ended up sticking around for a long time. I'm curious, do they stick with the status quo in that sense, or
Mhm.
do they change the script and get, like the way the NFL is trending, a lot of young offensive minds are hot head coach candidates. So it's going to be very interesting to see the new direction of the Steelers. They haven't had their long-term answer at quarterback since Big Ben, started to age. So there's a lot to figure out there. But they're the Steelers. You expect them to be at least 500.
Yeah.
Um, all right, so that was it from the wild card weekend. Now we'll move on to this coming weekend, where we have the divisional round. Where if Dallas was here, all three of our teams would be discussed. Instead, it's just going to be both our teams plus Dallas's team, and you know one other matchup where we have no actual like fandom. But regardless, it should be a fun weekend. We've got some
Yeah.
matchups. First up, I'm going to go out of order from our document because I think we have the
Right.
order of games. The first game this weekend is going to be in Denver. The Bills come into town on Saturday, playing the Broncos. Josh Allen knocked the Broncos out of the playoffs last year when it was kind of roles reversed. Broncos were the 7 seed last year, Bills were the 2 seed. Bills kind of whooped ass. Broncos were just kind of happy to be there. Things are different this year. The
Hmm.
the Broncos are the number 1 seed. They get to host the AFC playoffs. Josh Allen's coming in as a wild card team because the Patriots won the AFC East. He took down the Jaguars in Jacksonville in what was a tough game. I expect maybe more of the same in this one in terms of toughness. I'm not picking a result, but yeah, what do you think about this one? Who do you think, or what do you think the X factor might be in this matchup?
Yeah, I mean, I think for this one, it is so interesting because like, what is the Broncos' biggest strength? I think most people would point to, the mixture of their pass rush and pass retain and his ability to lock up a number one weapon. And then you look across at the Bills and you think, who's the Bills' number one weapon?
James Cook, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, who's not going to be lining up against pass retain? And you look and you're like, okay, so their number one receiver is either a disgruntled pick who's been benched all year, Brandon Cooks, or they had three guys last week all hit IR, so they're down to three current receivers on the roster. They are going to, I don't know if they've already signed their replacements or picked up practice squad guys, but after the game, they placed three receivers on IR. I believe Palmer went on IR. Tyrell Shavers tore his ACL and then played the second half, which is also crazy to think. Um, I mean, they are just like out of weapons, and so it's this interesting. Like, I almost wonder if it's going to be this like reverse jinx, Uno reverse card of like Pat Surtain is this like lockdown ready corner. Is he going to be wasted traveling with Brandon Cooks all game? Like that seems ridiculous, but also I don't know what else you do with that, right? Like what else do you do with Pat Surtain? Like are you not going to have him travel with their top guy or do you try and make a new role where he plays kind of like a positionless position? Like I think the X factor is really going to be like the Broncos defense like matchups. Like who are they matching up with who? Because the Bills have turned into this enigma of there's no one elite or great on this team. It's just Josh Allen and James Cook pushing this ball of skill players down the field. And I don't know what that's gonna look like. Like I don't even know how I would stop it because none of their guys seem like they should be that good anyways, and yet they make plays when they need to make plays. Like it's just this bizarre thing. I mean, Brandon Cooks hasn't been relevant since he was playing for the Rams in a Super Bowl in 2018, and all of a sudden last week he's making miraculous catches with less than 2 minutes to go against a great defense. Like it's bizarre.
Hmm.
Is all I have to say. It's just a bizarre scenario because they don't have any premier skill position like at all.
Yeah, I think this game's interesting because Yeah, it's not like the matchup everyone's talking about is the best quarterback in this game is Josh Allen, and the better defense in this game is the Broncos defense. So that's getting a lot of attention, and especially how you pointed out, it's like not a good strength on strength matchup. It's kind of Bill's strength against the Broncos defense's weakness in a sense. Um, so I'm actually more interested to see how the Broncos offense plays in this game against the Bills defense. I think it is kind of I mean at this point all these teams are good, but I think it is the defense that you're not really that afraid of the teams that are left, the Bills. And I think the Broncos have looked very different offensively in different games this year. And so, which version of the Broncos offense are we going to get? Are we going to get Bo Nix, playmaker, escaping the pocket, throwing to open receiver, making clutch throws, and RJ Harvey finding gaps, and we're just marching down the field and we score 35 points? Or are we going to get the Broncos offense that just can't seem to get anything going until the fourth quarter? And by then, against a good team in the playoffs, it's probably too late. Um, so I'm interested in that. I think Josh Allen shouldn't have much problem getting the offense going. So it's going to come down to how much can the Broncos score. Um, I'm I'm exempt per Dallas's rules last week from making a pick in this game, so I will not be. I'm excited to watch, and I will say this: whoever wins this game is going to be who I root for the rest of the playoffs. I mean, obviously, if it's the Broncos, but the Bills, I, I I like the Bills. I like Josh Allen. I want that city to get a Super Bowl championship. That's kind of my motivation there. So I'm excited to watch. I'm not going to make a pick. Matt, what's your pick for this game?
Oh, this is such a tough one. I think because you're absolutely right. I mean, at the end of the day, the quarterback matchup is it seems imbalanced to say the least. But Bo Nix is nothing if not a winning quarterback. He's got that. Not to this is not a diss. He's got that Jalen Hurts like ability, that factor of like he just like wins football games. Um, so curious if that can be enough. I mean, this Bills defense hasn't even been that good this year. I'm gonna go Broncos.
All
And I'm gonna
right.
say it. I'm gonna say it only because I like the home field. I like the home field. Um, Josh Allen was clearly fatigued and exhausted playing last week in Jacksonville, where it was 70 and breezy. I can only imagine what it's gonna be like. Not the cold, but the air. Like, is he gonna be prepared to carry that whole team in mile high air? I don't know. So I think I'm going to go with the Broncos to win a really close game. Like we could be talking about like a Will Lutz 59-yarder to take the lead kind of vibe.
Yeah, and that'd be sick. I do think a lot of the media in general, because Josh Allen is Josh Allen, because the
Yeah.
Broncos are kind of not your typical number one seed. They're kind of like like I'm not seeing many people giving the Broncos much of a shot. And it's interesting because it's a number one seed. You don't see that very often. So I do think it's going to be a good game. Again, we'll have to just wait and see who's going to win that one. The other Saturday game is a divisional matchup that you got to, steer clear of because the
Mm-hmm.
49ers won. So a rematch of Week 18 in Seattle this time. 49ers heading up north to take on the Seahawks. Sans George Kittle, but maybe with Fred Warner? Is question mark? I don't know.
Uh,
Is on his
that
way?
the official rundown is that it's not looking likely.
Okay.
He has not yet returned to practice. That would be a huge thing. Usually on Thursdays is like your last like if you're not practicing by Thursday, it's not likely.
All right. So, anyways, how are you feeling about this matchup of two of your biggest rivals?
Well, it is one of my biggest rivals, but in the same breath, due to my personal connections, like the Seahawks would be the team I probably root for after the Rams. Um, and at the end of the day, I've been saying it all year, and it gets harder and harder by the week to prove it, but I still do believe the 49ers are a little fraudulent. I understand that they've pulled off these wins and they've gotten this record and now they've won a playoff game, but and so my theory is almost by rule wrong. And at the same time, I still believe it though. I don't believe in Brock Purdy as a, Super Bowl winning quarterback. Uh, they say when one of the big three is out for the 49ers, the big three being Trent Williams, Christian McCaffrey, or George Kittle, the offense looks completely different and gets significantly worse. Obviously, George Kittle's going to be out. Trent Williams has not been healthy. And, you know, Christian McCaffrey is amazing as a receiver, but his run game has been far, far uh, less efficient. So I think I look at this game, and the X factor for me has got to be that Seattle defense because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, if the reports of Sam having his oblique strain is going to matter. If they hold the 49ers to like 90 yards and 3 points like they did last matchup, it nothing else matters. The offense can be really, really average for the Seahawks, and they're still going to score more than 3 points on that 49ers defense. Like, especially if Fred Warner's not coming back. I mean, not even like being like dramatic. I would trust Drew Lock to get the Seahawks offense to maybe around 20 points against this current 49ers defense. I would absolutely trust that. If Sam's playing and he feels good, like yeah, I think I low key think they're going to smoke the Niners. Um, so I think that also kind of gives away my pick.
Sure, but I'll take my turn anyway. The this could be a really interesting game because it just kind of always is when these two teams play each other. But it just feels like maybe it's one injury too much. And I did Google this while you were talking. Fred Warner is ruled out officially for this week's game.
Okay.
I guess he did kind of start practice drills today, but yeah, he's not going to be playing this weekend. So 49ers kind of a short week as my dog goes off, but short week for the 49ers. Because they played on Sunday and now they have to play on Saturday. They don't have George Kittle. They don't have Fred Warner. They've dealt with all these injuries and they've overcome so much, but we saw this matchup just a couple weeks ago. The the Seahawks defense just had them in a chokehold.
Yeah.
So thanks, Toby. She's agreeing with me. But the uh the 49ers couldn't get anything going. And so regardless of how Sam plays, honestly, I trust
hmm
Sam to play well enough to get the Seahawks 13 points like they did in
hmm
week 18. I don't know how many points the 49ers will realistically score. So I think that's where I
13
do
points
think
was a double-digit lead.
right, like I do think the Seahawks will win this game. I think if the 49ers can win, it's because Sam Darnold has, a terrible game because the lights are too bright or whatever. That's, kind of the reputation at this point. And
Because he Justin Herbert's.
right. And it could be that and, the just like the power of coaching and the power of friendship 49ers. But I really don't expect that. And it's mainly because of the Seattle defense and
Yeah.
what the 49ers are up against.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so let's move on to Sunday's games. We'll start with not your team, and we'll go to the other AFC matchup. The Texans are heading up to Foxborough to take on the Patriots. Uh, this is a matchup between two. I guess you could call it the Bill O'Brien Bowl if you wanted to, but uh,
Yes.
two teams that won their games despite their quarterbacks not looking like they had their A game last week. How do you expect this one to go this week?
I do believe that this is going to be pretty much a smackdown. Um, maybe the Patriots defense can keep them in it, but I think this is the week Drake May gets exposed. This is a defense that is not like anything he's faced. Even the Bills this year, Bills historically under, McDermott have been a great defense. This year, not a very good defense. And that's two of the three winning teams that the Patriots have played. Now the Chargers were a decent defense and he looked pretty average. He looked a lot more like year one Drake May than he did year two Drake May. Um, I think this Texans defense is going to come, show up and show out. Like this is their moment to basically say like this is I saw this video breakdown talking about like, offense and defense, how many points were attributed like towards winning. It's this whole I get into like the weird analytics where like half of them you are like, well, that doesn't seem real. But this one, they're talking about like how much does this defense actually contribute towards their winning. The Texans are at like a historic pace for this defense. Their offense is super mid. Like it is super average. But their defense is creating point differential at a historic rate in terms of just how they shut down other teams, their ability to not just turn the ball over, but score off of turnovers. It's pretty remarkable, to be honest. And they're doing it again with just four guys rushing the passer, playing seven back, and just lighting dudes up over the middle. I just don't think that Drake May is going to be able to sit back and have this, season where he's just throwing deep balls and everyone's praising him for his deep ball accuracy and all this stuff. Dude, you got like the two best man corners in all of football. You have the guys who are pressuring quarterbacks at like a 60% clip. You're not going to be able to just stand back there and find Kayshawn Booty down the field. It's just not going to happen. And so I think the Texans kind of throttle the Patriots. I could see this score ending similarly to how the Steelers game was, to be honest. Like, I don't think that the Patriots offense is going to be able to get anything really going. They might have like a play or two, but that's purely based off of my projection of like, well, Trevion Henderson's really fast. So, maybe.
Yeah, I like half agree with you. I do think the Texans defense is gonna be able to dominate in this game. I think it's gonna be I mean, it's easily the toughest matchup Drake May has faced this year. And
Yeah.
he's had a great year. I think he's a great talent, but he's young. He hasn't faced something like this. The Patriots roster, as well as they've played this year, it just to me doesn't stack up, especially the Patriots offense versus this Texans defense. But where I don't think it's going to be a total smackdown is that the Patriots are a better team than the Steelers, first of all, and C.J. Stroud did not look very good last week, and he had to go on the road to Pittsburgh. He's going to have to go to the road to Foxborough. The crowd, it's going to be rowdy. It's going to be cold. I think these are factors. Do I think it's going to be enough for the Patriots to win this game? I don't. I do think the Texans will win. I do think that the defense is that good, um, and they'll win. But I think this might be an ugly one, similar to Steelers, uh,
I mean, and
Steelers Texans. But go ahead.
yeah, well, and you're 100% right. I mean, the Steelers Texans game, the 30-6 does not speak to how that whole game went. Again,
Right.
it was 7-6 going into that
Hmm.
fourth quarter. Like that, those 23 points came suddenly in a flash, and defensively mostly.
Right.
It started with that fumble recovery for the touchdown, and so I absolutely agree. I think that this could be one of those games where you're looking at like, oh God, this game, like this is ugly. It's just a dominant defense and some middling offenses, but I do think that they're gonna at the end get throttled. I mean, I think we're looking potentially, pick six, a punt return. There's going to be some non-offensive scoring, I do believe, in this game.
Yeah, and I think it'll be more close to the Patriots Chargers game than to the Texans Steelers game. I
Sure,
think it's
sure.
it's going to be like, the Texans might put a drive or two together. Maybe the Patriots are able to put together one solid drive, and maybe it's like a 14-7 final or something like that. Like
So, It's a banana
It's
kind
gonna,
of game.
yeah, but it's going to be a game of field position, that sort of thing. And I do believe in Drake May enough to like have a couple like crazy throws that were like whoa, but like overall. I do think this is a mismatch for him, and it's going to be, I think, a learning experience. I think you kind of have to go through these games as a young quarterback. It's been a little too easy
Hmm.
for Drake May this year, kind of
Hmm.
suspiciously easy. Um,
It's
okay,
that
so we have
fourth place
one
schedule, brother.
one last game for the weekend. It involves your Rams. They're going to Chicago to play the Bears, who came off a thrilling game against the Packers. Um, the old wily vet in the playoffs, Matt Stafford, versus the young gunslinger Caleb Williams. Two of the most exciting quarterbacks for very different reasons in the NFL right now.
Hmm.
And what do you got for this one?
I think this is going to be. I think this is going to surprise people because everyone is looking at the weather and everyone's talking about the fact that it's going to be like 8 degrees or like 6 degrees, and with the wind chill, it's supposed to be like -10. And people are thinking that this is just going to be this, again, like a sloppy, gross defensive game. I actually think that this is going to be a really high scoring game. Like, I think we might see, similar to our game last week with the Panthers, I think we could see a game where both teams score 30 points. I think that weirdly it's going to work in the offense's favor. I think that Ben Johnson has built his team to be able to run the ball. He invested in 3 new interior offensive linemen. They have a good run game, and they have the Ben Johnson scheme, which is typically a great run game. And then the Rams are there's 2 teams in NFL history that have ever had over a 50% success rate on run plays across an entire season. The first team that ever did it was the 2018 Rams with Todd Gurley in that, magic Super Bowl run where we fell short. The second team, shockingly, is this year's Rams. People don't realize how good the Rams' run game has been, because they haven't been scoring like they used to. Kyron Williams used to be, 1 to 2 touchdowns a game, and this year Stafford has really taken a lot of those goal line plays, um, because Devontae Adams has been here, and that's like his skill set. And so I think, people don't realize how good our run game's been, but I think this is going to be a game where both teams just kind of run all over each other. We might not see, 300 yards, 400 yards through the air, but I could easily see both teams putting up 150 on the ground, 200 on the ground, and this at the end of the day, you turn on the score, and it's 28-34 or 34-31, 37-33. Like I could see it being a high scoring game.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna like take from what I saw both these teams do last week, and I think, yeah, I think you're right. I think we saw the Bears go down big fast in their game against the Packers, and they were able to come back and win. We saw the Rams go ahead quickly, and then the Panthers kind of climb back into it, and then Matt Stafford had his, game-winning drive at the end, and the defense held strong. I think we'll kind of see a combination of that, and like I think the Rams will look like the better team in the first half. I think the Bears could look like the better team in the second half, and it just comes down to, do the Rams hold strong, and are they able to fend them off, or does the Bears late magic, you know, come back again, and that's just their identity, and that's just what they do. Um, I think if I'm making a pick, I know you don't have to, you're exempt, but I do think the experience and just like the veteran presence and everything does have me leaning Rams. So I do think the Rams will pull this one out. I think they are the better team overall, and I think with Matt Stafford and Sean McVay and their wealth of experience, I think it's like it could be a sort of like not yet young
Yeah.
exciting head coach, young exciting quarterback. We're still here for now. And
Hmm.
the future might be yours, but like we're still here. I think it could be something like that. So I do think it should be a good game. It should be a fun one, but I do think it's going to be the Rams in the end, which means Uh, in my bracket, it's going to be Rams versus Seahawks in the NFC Championship in Seattle, and I think that's kind of always where we were destined to end up. Um,
Hmm.
but
So Rams, Seahawks, and then Texans versus Broncos in theory.
yeah, if we're correct here, um, and I think that might be like correct. That might be like the four best team, or like at least the two best teams in each conference. So we'll see. And if it ends up being Bills Texans, I could say the same thing. We'll see. But either way, figures to be an exciting week of football.
Yeah.
Um, we're not going to do a fan corner this week, and we're not going to do our locked in predictions because we just predicted a lot of stuff and we just talked a lot about our favorite teams. So that's going to actually do it for this week's football episode of Dingers and Stingers. We'll have a baseball episode out this week as well. Changing the recording day. I don't know how much that affects you viewers at home, but there's no more Thursday night football, so we're back on Thursdays. It works better for us. Thanks for tuning in. Remember to like this video, subscribe to our channel, tell your friends about us, share it around if you want. We would love that. We're also on Spotify. We're also on Instagram at Dingers and Stingers. We're going to try to do some more stuff. I know we've said that a lot. We're busy, okay?
It's tough.
Um,
We're busy.
we don't get paid to do this. But anyways, Dallas will be back, not in the baseball one and not in next week's show, but assuming he comes
Eventually.
assuming he comes back from his work vacation, um, he'll be here at some point, maybe to talk Super Bowl. So uh, we'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.
Bye.